Now, joining us for more on the life and times of the late Douglas Gibson, we're joined by DA spokesperson Willie Aucamp. Good evening, Willie. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, as a party, you broke the news of the passing of Douglas Gibson a bit earlier on in the day, a politician and a diplomat with a career spanning decades. Just talk us through this loss today.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you very much. I was a young man when I got to know Douglas Gibson. He was in Parliament at the same time that my father was a member of Parliament, and that is how I got to know him. And although they were at that stage not in the same party, it was always noticeable how the type of person he was. He had compassion, he's really looked out for everybody that was around him, and he had a presence. If you walked in a room and Douglas was there, you would have known that Douglas is there. So I got to know Douglas at a very young age, and later on, as a member of the Democratic Alliance, we became partners and worked together. I had the privilege of working with Douglas many a time in my later years, in my later life as well. And the same way that I saw him when I was a young man, I saw him when I was older. And it was a way in which I looked at him and said to myself that this is a South African, a person that really dedicated his whole life to South Africa. You just said there, it was in 1977 when he went into public service. And he stayed in public service for decades in the Democratic Alliance. Well, first the DP and then later on the Democratic Alliance. He was the chief whip of the Democratic Alliance, later on the chief whip of the opposition. And being a chief whip, you've got to be firm, and he was. But also, as a diplomat, as an ambassador, he showed us he is a person with compassion. And I really, it was a privilege for me to have worked alongside him, and it was a privilege for us as the Democratic Alliance to have had a guy like Douglas Gibson's guidance for many years. He will surely be truly missed.
Willie, speaking of that firmness, I mean, we just spoke in that specific clip that I read a bit earlier on, we spoke about what had taken place in 2017 when he didn't shy away from expressing his views, actually going on to say Helen Zille perhaps better retire. Just talk to us about that firmness and being a man that was very open to speak his truth.
If you show me a chief whip that is a likable guy, I'll show you a poor chief whip. It is not the job of a chief whip to be liked by people. It's a job of the chief whip to whip and to see to it that your party in Parliament has got discipline. And that is exactly what Douglas Gibson did. He was chief whip even before the Democratic Alliance became the official opposition in 1999. He had discipline. He showed it in how he worked. His work ethics were extreme. He worked very hard. He had the respect of everybody because they knew he was a fair man. I worked alongside Douglas in many federal legal cases where we had to adjudicate matters. As a legal professional myself, I sat there and I learned from him how he could objectively look at a situation and be fair. And that was one of the trademarks of Douglas Gibson, is that everybody to him was equal, and he worked his life to make sure that we get a better South Africa. He was a fair man, and I think if they can say that one day about anybody, that is a good thing to hear.
And what were his views now of Helen Zille as federal chair?
I don't think that we've got to go into Helen Zille. This is not about Helen Zille. I think he had a huge amount of respect for Helen Zille. They worked together for many years, and when Douglas Gibson says something, or Helen Zille says something, or I do, it is because we've got the openness in a party with liberal values where we know that we've got freedom of speech to say things. And that is not what it's about. And to now try and get the whole discussion towards Helen Zille at a time when we all are grieving, I don't think it's what we should do. I think we should concentrate on Douglas, the remarkable life that he lived, on his family, and his friends and his colleagues in the DA who are all mourning, and our condolences to his loved ones, to his wife and to his friends. He really was a true South African that dedicated his life to better the lives of so many others. He touched the lives of many. And I can promise you, you can speak to his erstwhile colleagues in Parliament, whether they were from the ANC, from other parties, everybody will be able to tell you a good story about Douglas. The fact that they had respect for him. He was the first opposition politician in the new South Africa that was appointed as an ambassador. And that also tells you a lot. Although he was the chief whip of the opposition party, the ANC was governing at that stage, had so much respect for him that the president then appointed him as the ambassador to Thailand, where he also served our country with distinction.
Now, Willie, granted it's still a bit too early, everything has just happened today, but any word around perhaps memorial services that the Democratic Alliance will be planning to celebrate his life, or even funeral arrangements?
I have not heard what the funeral arrangements are. I am definitely sure that the Democratic Alliance will also have a memorial service for him, most probably at Parliament, where he worked for so many years serving this country and serving our party. But I don't have the particulars of the funeral. As soon as we get it, it will be made public.
All right, Willie, condolences to you as a political party and, of course, his family and friends. That's DA spokesperson Willie Aucamp there, just sharing with us the life and times of Douglas Gibson.